Do you want to make epic music videos, but all you've got is iMovie? And we all know you can't make anything good with free software. Well, actually, contrary to popular belief, iMovie is a $1,000 software that comes with a free computer. So it is certainly capable of getting the job done. So I'm going to show you what you can do. Now, just to clarify, we're going to talk about the fundamentals here, just how to shoot your band or just shoot yourself. Don't do that. Just to clarify, we're going to talk about the fundamentals here. So just how to get footage of the band or yourself playing your instruments and how to sync it up with music. If you're wanting to shoot a music video with more of a narrative, kind of like a little short film in there, I'll talk about that some at the end. But for right now, we're just going to focus on the core elements of making a music video. So it all starts with your pre-production phase. You're going to need a backing track of the song. It doesn't necessarily have to be the final version of the song. It just needs to be at the right tempo and the right arrangement so that you can play in sync with it. And then you're going to need some kind of speaker, something kind of like this, that you can just play the track through, and then you can play along with it with your guitar, or you can sing along with it, or drum along with it, whatever it might be. And then you want to think about your location. Now, at the simplest version, you could just do it in your bedroom and do kind of like a studio music video thing, or you can go looking for cool locations and just film yourself playing at those places. You have your location, you set up, you play the music, you film yourself playing along with it, and once you've got your footage, we're good to go. So what you're going to want to do first is organize all your footage. So I've got all the footage of the bass in this folder here, and I've got footage of the drums here, I've got the guitar and the vocals, and then anything extra, like I shot an intro for this video, and I also shot an outro, that stuff goes here, or just any clips, like if there are any bloopers or anything extra, you can have a folder for that. And along with organizing, usually when you're filming, you're probably going to take a lot of takes, and you don't necessarily need all of them. So I find that usually the last couple are the best takes. Those are the ones where I'm going to have usable footage, and I just put those in the folders, and then that's what I use in editing. So let's go ahead and jump into iMovie now. Alright, so here we are in iMovie, and I've got footage here from a music video that I shot recently. This is the finished product here, but I'm going to start fresh. So we just click Create, Movie, we're just going to do no theme. We'll just call this Movie, something really original. Alright, and then you would import your footage. Now, I've already got all of the clips imported because I've worked on this already, but normally I would just import it one section at a time. So since this song has guitar throughout it, I would start with the guitar clips first, and then once I'm done with that, I would move on to the next stuff. So I would import my guitar footage, and I would import the actual backing track, which you can see right here. Alright, so we're going to start with our guitar footage because in this song, it starts with the guitar and it ends with the guitar. It's throughout, so it's a good foundation for this music video. And again, we're going to try to use the last take because usually I find that the best performance is probably in the last take or somewhere near the last take. So we can start with that, and if we need to swap it out for something else later, we can do that. But let's go ahead and grab this. So here's me walking into place. So this is kind of the intro here. I'm going to just click and drag that. And I'm actually not going to grab the whole thing just yet because I don't need to. I'm going to bring it down here. And what I want to do is I want to sync this with the audio. So you want to try to find a very distinctive hit. Now in this song, somewhere in the intro, there's a part where the drums play the kick and the ride. They do this little ding kind of thing. And it's perfect for syncing up the footage. So let's see if we can find that. Right there, that ding, okay? So let's go ahead and cut right there. When I need to just move quickly, I'll kind of zoom out so I can cross everything really fast, but then when I'm cutting at a specific spot, I'll zoom in and then just use the arrow keys. There we go. You can kind of hear that, the beginning of that hit right there. So I'm going to cut right there with Command B for blade. So that's a good marker point. Now let's go to our actual track, and I'm going to grab that beginning part. And I'm going to get that in sync. So I just click it, drag it down here, and I'll go ahead and turn down the volume on the other track so I can hear this one better. And this is a master track. It's really loud, so usually I will turn the volume down to about 15% or so. Okay. Alright, it's about to happen, so I'm going to zoom in. Let's find it. Here it is, right there. So we're going to select that, clip, and now we can sync this up. Alright, so I've cut them at the same place, so now I can check. I can turn the volume back up on this one, and let's just make sure they're in sync. I'll turn this up more. That's pretty good. If it's not quite on, usually you just got to move it forward or back a frame or so. But yeah, that's in sync. So now that we've got this, we can drag our track all the way to the end. And we can just drag this to match it. And now we want to get that beginning back. So we'll drag this back a ways. And we'll drag this back. And that red mark means it's at the end of its range. You sync up right with it, and we cut there. So now we know our footage is nice and in sync. We can just go ahead and delete that first bit. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now it's in sync. So technically, you've got a music video. You've got your backing track in sync with the guitar stuff. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you might notice that when you first sync it up, when you hear the audio from the original filming, and then you hear the recorded audio in place of it, it can seem kind of jarring at first, like you can tell that it's dubbed. That's just because you're perceiving it from the original audio. Once you edit, and once you hear it from the beginning with the backing track audio, everything will sync up fine and it'll look okay. But yeah, just don't stress out if it's synced up and you feel like, it doesn't look like I'm really singing, it looks like I'm just being dubbed. So we've got this take, and then you don't really have to, but you can watch it through just to make sure it's a pretty solid take, but you might find some mistakes. I know later, yeah, right here, there's this little section here where I'm adjusting my tiara. You can see right there I stopped playing, so that's no good. For sections like that, what we're going to do, we obviously don't want it in the video, so we're going to cut it out. So somewhere around here, we'll just cut, play, I make the adjustment, and now I'm back into playing, so we'll cut there. Now here's the problem with iMovie. So I've made that cut. In normal editors, you could just go ahead and delete that, and then you'd have like a gap there where it would just be black for a moment. But in iMovie, if you delete it, it automatically slides the footage and connects it to the previous part. So now this bit of footage is out of sync with the track. So that's a problem. But we can work around that pretty easily. So anytime you cut, you can just cut just to let yourself know that that's an area where you're going to tweak it, but just leave it there for now. It'll be easy to kind of swap in and out and replace it later. So believe it or not, that's it right now. You don't actually have to watch through and worry like, is this a good take and stuff? Because what we're going to do, we're going to bring in the other tracks. And the thing is, when you're first editing, you might feel like, ugh, this is no good. Like, you know, that performance, it's good at some parts, but it's not great through the whole thing. And that's okay. Because what we're going to be doing is just showing the highlights of each instrument. We're going to show the best parts of the guitar, we're going to show the best parts of the vocals, and the drums and the bass. So collectively, it's like a compilation of all the best parts, and then it'll work and it'll play out as a nice, exciting video. It's not worth stressing over the details right now because we're actually going to get everything else in place first, and then we can go through and decide what needs to be swapped out and rearranged. So this is all we need to do. Now we need to bring in another track. So the next track I would want to start with is the vocals, because usually the vocals are kind of the main part, and they're really helpful for how to arrange the clips. So let's go ahead and start with the vocal. Again, I'm going to grab from the third take. Let's find that little ding section around here. So I'm going to grab this. Again, let's turn down the volume here so it's not interfering, and we're going to listen for that ding. Yep, right there. So that's the beginning of the hit. All right, and what's nice, you'll notice that where we cut on the audio, that's right at that ding. There's that little node right there, so you can see where that specific spot is at. Now, there's going to be some situations where you might have to work around that, but for the most part, it's actually pretty helpful. So we can go ahead, we can turn this back up, again, to about 15%. And let's find that ding. Yep, right on it. So we can just drag this here, and we know it's going to be in sync. Alright, so what we're going to do, we can turn the volume down on this, drag this out here, and then drag it back to the beginning. Now, like I said, when you first watch this, it's going to look kind of funny. Hearing it with the backing track, it kind of looks like I'm not really singing. But again, that's because you know what the original audio sounds like. When you kind of watch it fresh with no reference to the original, it works together just fine. So this is all in sync. Now here's the nice thing about the vocals. The vocals don't sing the whole time. They just sing at certain places. So it makes it really easy to edit. We know there's no vocals in the beginning, so if you listen, it's just guitar. The vocals don't come in till here. Right there. So that's where we want our vocals to start. That's our first cut right there. Now real quick, let me just say about cutting. You might think that with music that you want to cut right on the beat, but here's the thing. We don't just hear with our ears, we kind of hear with our eyes. As in, when we hear a sound, in order to give that sound more impact, it helps to see the impact going into that sound, like see the action before the sound is made. If you cut right on the sound, you don't see the build-up going into it, and so it has less impact. So anytime you're cutting, you always want to cut just a little ahead of the beat, like maybe like just a half beat before the beat or before the vocal comes in or whatever it is. That way there's a little bit of leeway into what's about to happen. This is especially important with the drums. If you want like a really big drum hit, you don't cut right on the hit, you cut a little bit before so that you can see the stick coming down and making that impact. But yeah, we're just going to go through and we're just going to cut out where the vocals aren't singing. What we also want to do with this part, we want to keep in mind the arrangement of the song, and we want to try to highlight certain sections. So right now it's just guitar and vocal, but you'll hear in a moment here that the bass comes in. So obviously, with a new instrument coming in, we're going to want to cut to the bass. So here comes the bass. So let's go ahead and cut out the vocal. So somewhere around here, I'll just drag that out of the way. And even though I don't have the bass footage in yet, you can just see already with the guitar, the way it cuts, you can see my hand moving into position. And that looks a lot better than just cutting right on that beat. And then that ding will probably cut to the drums there. And then maybe we'll cut back to the vocals briefly. And then we'll cut to something else. And then I know we're going to want to cut to the drums when they kick in. So we'll probably cut to the drums there. We might cut back to the vocal after that, so we'll put that here. So basically what I'm doing is, I'm just working with what I know. You might not know exactly the order you want to do yet, but start with what you do know. So there's a few sections where I know I want the vocals, and obviously you can kind of watch through and pick all the good moments and use that. And then there's certain sections where I know I'm going to be cutting to something else, so I can go ahead and cut the vocals out. Now real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and cut through all of this and show you what to do next. Okay, so I went ahead and made a few cuts here. I just made the best guess I could, just working with what I already knew. You don't have to be super precise here. You can always tweak this later. But just little things like this section here, there's a guitar solo. So I know there's not going to be any vocal footage there, so I can just cut all that out. You can already see just by watching this, we're starting to get kind of a video. It'll play the guitar footage, and then the footage on top, it'll cut to that, and then it'll cut back to the footage underneath. Alright, so it's starting to look a little more like a video, but we need more clips, and we can't stack anymore. So what we're going to do, for each spot that we have our vocal, we're going to cut there. So we start with the guitar, and we're going to scroll over, and right when you see it switch to a new clip, right there, we're going to cut, and then we go to the end, and when it goes from the vocal to the guitar clip, right there, cut, and now what we can do, we take our vocal clip, we drag it down, and we delete this clip. So now everything is still in place. And we just rinse and repeat that method. So it's going to play out the same way. It's going to switch from the guitar to the vocal, and everything's in sync. And now we just do the same thing. Once we get that in place, we can start with a fresh clip. So usually I'll go to the drums next, because the drums usually look really good on camera. There's a lot of really flashy moments. All you're doing is you're just looking for all the cool parts. You just watch the drum playthrough, and any part where it's like, oh, that's really cool, cut that out, and you want to plan to use that. Now, it might not work, but ideally that gives you an idea of which parts of the drums you actually want to highlight. You bring in your drum clip, you get it synced up with that marker shot, the ding. Once it's in sync, you go through, you look for all the cool moments, you cut those out, you delete everything else, and then you insert it into the footage below. You cut it just like I showed you, drag it down, delete the other thing, and everything is in line. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the actual project so you can kind of see what this looks like. Here's my finished project here, and you can see I've got all these different clips back to back, and I just use that method. I just got everything in place. But once you do that, now it's time to rearrange it. You start watching it, and it's kind of like working a puzzle. You have to sort of figure out what's going to look best. So for instance, what I found out is the guitar shot and the bass shot are almost a little too similar, and I tried to make them as different as I could when I was filming, but I wasn't totally sure how this was going to come out. But as it turns out, they were too similar, so I realized it doesn't look good to cut from the guitar to the bass. In fact, I've got an example of that right here. So So it's just kind of an awkward cut because the shots are too similar. So I kind of made it a rule. I tried my best to separate them. And sometimes it's like a puzzle. So for example, this section here, it starts with the drums. I knew I wanted to show the drums here. And then later, it's going to end with the drums before going into the chorus. So I've got two shots of the drums kind of sandwiching this section here. So all I can fit in there are bass, guitar, and vocals. So I got to split that up as best I can. I actually remember this moment here, I liked this for the vocals. So originally I cut to the vocals here. It's kind of lagging, but I remember I kind of liked that section, but because I was cutting from the drums to the vocals, I didn't really have a way to switch it up. So what I ended up doing, I had to move the vocals back to this section here and replace them instead with a bass part. So that way I could go from the drums to the bass, then to the vocals, then to the guitar, and then back to the drums. So it's a little bit like a puzzle sometimes trying to figure that out, but it's pretty easy to replace parts. So let's say we want to replace this bass with a guitar part. Remember, our guitar footage is in sync. So what I can do is I can select this guitar clip, make a copy of it, paste it, and drag it on top, and then I'm going to drag this over. Now don't just move it over like that because that's not in sync. You got to drag it over. And then if you want, you can drag it down, delete the other clip. You can see I got a little lazy at some points and I just kind of left it there, but it's whatever. So what's nice about this is this gives you the arrangement. It helps you know the best places to cut to. For instance, this section here, like we know we want to cut to the drums, but if I decide I don't like the performance or there's something wrong with the clip, I can go back to my other takes and find that section and drag it in and get it in sync. And it's pretty easy. You just kind of find the beginning of the beat and just cut there, line it up, and it's pretty easy to just drag it and correct it. You really just need the footage of each instrument first. It doesn't even have to be the best take. You just need the footage, and then you just need to cut it and figure out the arrangement first. Just know when you're cutting to the guitar, when you're cutting to the vocal, and then you can look at that footage and decide if that's the best take or not. And if it's not, well, at least you know what section you're looking for. You can go to the other takes and find better sections to replace it with. Now, you might have some extra clips, so here's where you can put in details. So let me demonstrate with the guitar solo here. So let's say I've got a guitar solo, and let's say I've got some shots that are more of a close-up on the hands. So I can go here, and I can look for that part of the solo. Now here's what's kind of funny. I'm actually not playing the solo during the solo in the song. I'm just playing along with the backing track because I didn't want to have to keep starting it over. So I just kind of played it. So it sounds awful. Yeah, you can hear I'm playing the solo, but in the wrong section of the song. But that's okay because the timing is still the same. I'm going to cut like right to that squealy. So let me grab that, bring it in here. And let's look for the squealy on here. Yeah, right there. And maybe even listen for the drums. Yeah, right on that snare. That's a good place. Let's cut right there. And let's look for that same snare hit on this track right here. I'm going to cut down the volume on this. Yeah, right there. Yeah, somewhere around there. So let's get that in sync. All right, so that should line up. Yeah, sounds awful, but it lines up. And it's okay, because we're going to cut down the audio. So you turn it down, and now it looks just fine. And then again, you can just easily just cut at the end here, right there, and then pull it down, delete, bada bing, bada boom, it's in there. So I don't usually start at the beginning. I kind of just start in the middle, like where the instruments really start playing all together. And then I'll go to the beginning and the end and figure out what footage I want to use there. I shot this little intro of me putting on the tiara. So I was going to start with that and then have it fade in. So I got this close-up shot of me playing the guitar. And then we cut to the vocal. But to kind of smooth that out and kind of match the tone, we're going to add in some transitions here. So if you click on transitions, I use this cross blur one here, and you just click that and you drag it down. And I think I had set it to like 2.5 seconds or something. And so it just kind of transitions nicely into that section. And then same thing, it's kind of awkward just to cut right to the vocal, so I'll use another one right there. I can hear you. And you know, you can tweak that and adjust that how you'd like. If you want to use more fades, you can. I kind of like to go with the cuts for the rest of the song, but it depends on the section. So that's the intro there. And then I also add a fade from black. So it starts black and then it fades into your footage. Now at the end, I've got it ending on me singing the last note. Then I just cut to the guitar to get that little slide there. And then I have my outro here. This is me just thanking people for watching the video. And I've actually got an instrumental version of the same song. So I like to have the song playing while I'm thanking people for watching. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, there's actually a button down there that you can click. Now you want to make sure it's really quiet in the mix. You don't want it to be too loud because you want people to hear what you're saying. But yeah, that's kind of a nice treat. And you just have that fade out and then you just have a little clip there to black. You can fade to black or cut to black, whatever you'd like. Easy way to just add a black screen. So you can click on titles here and just pick any one, drag it down, and then you just delete the text. Grab it, delete it, bam. And now you've got a section of black. So if you ever need to cut to black, that's a really simple way to do that. All right, so once you've got everything arranged, next you want to do color correction. So you just want to make sure everything flows. For example, the vocals were actually pretty well lit. I did have to correct them, but you can see it's pretty subtle. So here's before, and then here's after. You know, so just a little more detail there. And then when it goes to the bass was just super dark. So watch the difference from the vocal to the bass. It's just kind of jarring because it's really dark. So I had to make some adjustments here. Yeah, and you can see it just brightens it up, so now the cut is a little less noticeable, and it's a much smoother transition. So you want to go through and just color correct everything, make sure it's kind of balanced. Now, once you correct that one shot of the bass, what you can do is you select that clip, and you can Command-C to copy, and then what you can do is you can pick all your other clips, and you're going to Command-click all of the other bass clips. I'm not going to go through all of this, but yeah, any bass clip, I would just select them all, and then you come up here to Edit, Paste Adjustments, Paste color correction. So you just have to correct one frame and then you can just copy and paste it on all the other ones. So that's a great way to just save time in doing that. And then last thing I like to do, once I've got the color correction, I may or may not add Ken burns. Ken burns are actually a really cool effect, especially if you're shooting on a tripod. If you're making videos by yourself, you can add a little bit more energy with a Ken burn. So a good example of this is this build up here. The original shot is just a tripod shot, just a static shot. And it looks fine, but just to add a little more energy, we can kind of accent that feeling of building up. So we're going to select the clip, and we click on the crop icon here, and we go to Ken burn. Now, I've already got this set in place. It's actually reversed, so it's starting wide, and then it's going to zoom in. It shows you where it's ending. It kind of crops the footage there. And during the duration of the clip, it's going to make that zoom. But to kind of give it the feeling of getting bigger and building, I'm going to swap these. So you just hit reverse. There we go. So it starts small, and then it gets big. So watch how that works. Now, I know that was kind of laggy. I think it's because I'm recording. But the problem with Ken burns is you got to be really subtle with them. If you do too much, they can be kind of cheesy. They really shouldn't be noticeable. So what I would do is I might drag this off to the side and make this crop a little bigger and then drag it back into the center. Just try to get those little crosses lined up. There we go. So now it's much more subtle. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So it's not so obvious, but it's just enough to kind of give some energy. Now, you don't always have to go center out. You know, you can go in. If I'm zooming in, it's nice to zoom in towards something. So you want to think like, where's the eye looking? So for the guitar here, I've actually got some Ken burns on here, and you can see I've got it starting big and then sort of zooming into this direction towards my hand where I'm playing. Same thing with this last note here. I'm starting zoomed in, and since it's like this long note that's holding out, I'm having it extend. So I start zoomed in, and then I have it draw out to the corners. One last tip about them, you want to make sure the clip is fairly lengthy, so about 4.5 seconds or longer. Those are good clips for Ken burns. If you're cutting really quickly and it's just really short, 2-3 second clips, the Ken burn's just not going to look really good in there. But if it's 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds around there or longer, usually a Ken burn is a nice little tool to use. And you just kind of go with your feeling. Like even in this song, it starts off soft, so I don't really use the Ken burns, and then as the energy's building, I'll kind of use them. And then the very last thing you want to do is just check your volume. So make sure you return the master track to its full volume. And then if you've got any extra clips like of you talking, make sure that's transitioning into and out of the track audio in a balanced sense. You don't want your track to be way louder. You don't want it to be like super quiet. You want it to be nice and balanced. So just get your volume levels checked. That's pretty much all there is to making a music video. Now, if you're wanting to shoot a music video with a bit more of a narrative to it, that's going to happen mostly in the pre-production phase. You're actually going to want to really plan that out and even shoot a draft version of the music video before you shoot the actual version of the music video. So what you want to do first is kind of write out your music video, kind of get your story, and try to plan out like where you want certain moments to happen. Like what's going to happen during the verse, what's happening in the chorus, second verse, bridge, all that stuff. And then what I did, I shot a narrative music video last year. I actually shot the whole video in one day, just in my house. Now the actual video has different locations. We shot at my friend's apartment, we shot at a restaurant, we shot outside, but for this, I just shot it all in the house because the location wasn't important, it was the timing. And I was just acting out the scenes and just kind of getting a sense of how they should fit in. And what I found out was that the song moves quickly. So a lot of these shots, when I started stitching them together, they just took too long to happen. Now thankfully, there's a function here, if you click on this little turtle, you can actually speed up your footage and you can customize like how fast it's playing. That was helpful to speed up the clips and get them to the right timing for the music video. And that was super helpful for helping me know how many shots I could fit in, how quick those shots needed to be or how long they needed to be drug out, and also kind of getting a sense of where I could fit in the narrative and where I could fit in the band footage. So once you plan that out, that makes it so much easier when you actually go to shoot the video because you know exactly what you need and you're not just kind of guessing and figuring it out later. Then when you get to editing, you pretty much just use your draft version as sort of a template and you just copy that for your final version. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, that's how you make a music video in iMovie. I hope that was helpful to you. Until next time.